Hello, and welcome to the monthly SkillBites show, where we share information that is geared to helping you succeed in your business. This is Judy Weintraub, CEO of SkillBites and host of this show. Want to attract more prospects? Become a published author. SkillBites author platform provides the easiest way to get a book written and published. Today, I am delighted to have with us Bob Bentz. Bob is the president of Advanced Telecom Services, which has been in business since 1989 and has offices in Philadelphia, Toronto, London, and Prague. One of Advanced Telecom Services companies is Purplegator, a mobile-first digital agency. Purplegator provides everything mobile marketing, from apps development to SMS text message marketing and mobile advertising. Bob is also an adjunct professor at the University of Denver, where he teaches the graduate level course in mobile marketing in the communications department. Bob is the author of Relevance Raises Response, How to Engage and Acquire with Mobile Marketing. He's also a baseball coach who has coached 6 players that have gone on to play professionally. That's pretty cool. Bob, welcome to the SkillBites show. So glad to have you with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for your help in helping me publish my book.
I was delighted to help you with that. So tell me more about Advanced Telecom Services. How did you get involved in that company, and what does it do?
Well, Advanced Telecom Services was founded in 1989, and it was founded to take advantage of technology called IVR, or Interactive Voice Response. Interactive Voice Response is technology that enables people to, touch 1 for this information, touch 2 for that information, touch 3 to be redirected to a live operator. So it's a sophisticated, automated phone system. So that company began in 1989, and more recently, what has happened for us over the 27-year period of the company is we've continued to serve the same customers, that being brands, advertisers, advertising agencies, and media. But if you can imagine 27 years and what has happened in information, what we have seen is our tool of interactivity has evolved from the landline phone to the Internet, and I keep telling people that Internet thing is going to catch on one of these days, and then more recently to the mobile phone.
Okay, and how did you get involved with having locations in Toronto, London, and Prague?
Well, it was a natural thing. When you're looking to expand, you can go 2 different ways. You can either add more products to your existing markets, or you could add more markets to your existing products. So we took the strategy of, we had some pretty cool products back in the 1990s that were unique, and we had a nice niche in them, and we thought they would work basically wherever we went in the English-speaking world. So we expanded to Canada and to the UK, and then ultimately to Ireland as well. Now you're probably saying, well, geez, why the Czech Republic of all places? Well, just so happens I was at a trade show at one time, and I met a gentleman from the Czech Republic who owned an advertising agency, and he was looking for a partner to provide the technology. So we did that, and we've had a very successful joint venture in the Czech Republic and Slovakia since.
Well, I've never been there, but I understand Prague is a lovely city.
One of my favorites.
And now, who were the 6 players that went on to play professionally? Are they still playing?
Some of them are, yes. One of the guys that I coached is at the AAA level right now with the Oakland A's, and we think he might get a September call-up. So
wow.
I've been fortunate to coach guys both at the American Legion level and also on some travel teams.
That's pretty neat. Now, getting into mobile marketing, it's almost overwhelming. There's so many aspects to it. I hope you're going to help us sort of weed out the weeds and figure out where we should focus on this. I understand you refer to your mobile phone as your digital DNA. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Well, it used to mean something. When you looked at a 212 area code, you knew the person was from New York City. When you looked at a 215, you knew the person was from Philadelphia. Well, area codes have kind of become irrelevant now. If you're from Baltimore and you've moved to Austin, Texas, you've probably taken your same area code phone number with you. So that's why I say that your phone number has become your digital DNA. The phone number that you and I have today, we're going to have for the rest of our lives. And when you think about that and how important that can be to a marketer who is able to acquire that phone number and perhaps, for instance, be able to send you text messages, you can see how powerful that can be.
I guess that's something that probably hasn't occurred to a lot of people. But, yeah, when I see somebody's area code 609, I assume that they're from New Jersey, and they may at one point have been there, but they're not there now.
Right.
Now, is mobile marketing something that anybody can do? Is it primarily the big companies, the big dogs, or is it something that small companies can engage in as well?
Well, I think it's actually ideally suited for small companies. And the reason I say that is, you and I both live in the Philadelphia area, and if you owned a retail store or a restaurant, for example, 10 miles to the west of the city in the suburbs, your trading area is probably about 3 to 5 miles from the location of your retail store. Now imagine a metropolitan area like Philadelphia. If you wanted to buy advertising in traditional media like the Philadelphia Inquirer or a local radio station or TV station, the signal or the reach of that traditional media is going to extend you all the way into southern New Jersey, into Delaware, as far west as perhaps Harrisburg, and to the north all the way up to maybe Scranton and into Maryland to the south. So those are wasted impressions that you would get with traditional advertising. And this is why I think mobile is so ideally suited for the small business, is because of something we call geo-targeting. So with geo-targeting, if you want to limit your advertising to just a 5-mile radius from your store, you can do that. And there's absolutely no waste, because if you owned a pizza restaurant, for example, almost all of us eat pizza, and reaching those people in a 5-mile radius are going to be your core customers. And you won't have to worry about the waste that you get from people, say, for instance, in the state of Delaware, who are never going to come to your restaurant in the first place. So that's why I say that mobile advertising and mobile marketing is just ideally suited for the small business and, the 1 or 2 location stores.
Yeah, I can understand that for retail or restaurants, but how about for your service business that's not necessarily local? Are there other advantages of mobile marketing?
Well, there absolutely are, and it's getting more and more savvy as time goes on. If you think about, for instance, social media, when you took out a Facebook account, you gave them certain information, and that information is something that Facebook uses. So, you've given them your sex, your age, your profession, information like that can be very valuable to a person who's targeting you via mobile marketing and mobile advertising. So it's not just the geolocation, but it's also your interests, your demographics, your psychographics. These are all things that we can target via mobile, and they're things that are unique to mobile and digital that you can't necessarily get in the large blanket that you try and use when you do mobile with traditional advertising. Okay.
Well, just in case somebody's not quite sure they understand what psychographics is, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, sure. It's a combination of your demographics and things like your education level and your interests.
Okay. If you aren't involved in mobile marketing right now, how do you begin? What would you suggest is the first thing that somebody should do if they want to approach the idea of getting involved in mobile marketing?
Right. Good question. When you think back to the late 2000s, before smartphones had proliferated, for example, when you talked about mobile marketing, you really talked mostly about SMS text message marketing. So text message marketing, it's not the sexiest thing in the room anymore. It's been around for 10 years. But in terms of return on investment, if you can only do one thing, I always recommend to people that they do SMS text message marketing. It just works really, really well.
But to do that, you need people's mobile phones, yes?
Of course, and having a mobile optimized website is very important as well. But yes, you have to have an opt-in when it comes to text message marketing, and that may seem like a daunting task at first to get an opt-in from everybody. Usually an opt-in is something, using the restaurant example again, text dessert to 84444 and you get a mobile coupon back. That could be converted into an opt-in, meaning that you now have permission to send that user broadcast text messages in the future. And there are some pretty significant fines if you violate those rules. You cannot spam people on text. And while that may seem like a daunting task to create that list of opt-in phone numbers, it's precisely why text message marketing works so well, because the consumer is saying to you, I want to receive your messages.
So if you got that message from a restaurant and they didn't already have your permission, they might be guilty of spamming you. But if you did text dessert to their mobile number or wherever, then you would be considered opting in for getting more messages?
Correct. When you opted in for that mobile coupon, you would be presented with opt-in information and confirmation that you have opted in to receive future broadcast text messages and how many you will receive on a monthly basis. And by having an existing relationship with that business now has the ability to send you broadcast text messages in the future. But they can't send you one, just out of the blue. You have to do something to initiate being part of that opt-in list.
And so how do you start that? If you don't have mobile numbers to begin with, how do you can't start with the text messaging, but I guess you can start with something else on your website that asks for their mobile number and permission
Correct.
to send them the...
Yeah, the example of the interactive text message is the one that I gave you, where you text a keyword to a short code. In the case of text dessert, dessert would be the keyword, and the short code would be the 5-digit number 84444. So by doing that, doing an interactive text, you would be opting into the database, and that business can send you messages in the future. Now, that isn't the only way to get an opt-in. For instance, at a radio remote, you could have one of the listeners fill out a paper form. If you're on your website, you could fill out a box there to opt into the database as well. So there's multiple ways to get that opt-in, but the consumer has to do something to verify that they do indeed want to be part of your database.
Okay, and can you explain about short codes?
Yes, a short code is a 5 or 6 digit number, and you've probably seen them around. It's easier to remember because you don't have what is known as a long code, which all of us now have 10-digit phone numbers. Well, pretty difficult, for instance, on radio or television for someone to remember a 10-digit number if they're seeing it for a 30-second ad. But a 5-digit number is a different story. They could probably remember it, and that's why short codes have become so popular.
And how do you get those?
You can get short codes from a company like ours. We have relationships with usshortcodes.com, and you can go on usshortcodes.com and you can actually search for specific numbers that you might want to use as your short code. They are quite expensive, there's an upfront fee, and then there is a monthly fee involved with them. So most people that utilize short codes use what we call shared short codes. And our short code that we use at 84444.com is the short code 84444, and multiple advertisers will use that same short code so that we are able to amortize the cost of that over the multiple different advertisers that are using it.
So if you're sharing your short code with, say, 9 other companies, how do you know which responses to that short code are for you versus the other companies?
Right, it's because of the keyword. So in the case of using that keyword dessert that I used the example, we would know that the keyword dessert is associated with your business, so anybody that texted the keyword to the short code would become part of your database exclusively and not the part of any of the other people that are using the same short code.
So there has, even though that's not likely to occur, you have to make sure that when you're using a short code, you notify the others that they can't use it?
It's the keyword that is exclusive to your business, not the short code.
Right, you don't want the others using the keyword that you're using with the same short code that you're sharing with them.
Right, and the technology online handles that for you. You may go in there and search for a particular keyword that is already being used by somebody else, and no 2 advertisers can use the same keyword. So by using a shared short code, the only negative to it is there may be a keyword that's already taken by somebody else, and you would not be able to use that until they happen to be done with it.
So you might have to have an appetizer instead of a dessert.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, you talked a little bit about doing some SMS text marketing or text messaging if you have a limited budget and you want to be able to do something. Can you take us through what's involved with setting up an SMS text messaging campaign?
Sure. There are a lot of sites online that can provide this service to you. We have 2 of them, 84444.com and promotxt.com. And those are places that you could go and set up your own short code promotions. What you need to do is to select a keyword, and then usually the way it works is people will text the keyword to the short code. Maybe that's after hearing your radio ad or seeing it on the backs of the T-shirts of the waitresses in the restaurant. Whatever traditional advertising that you do, you can make it interactive by putting an interactive text message promotion on it. And then once that consumer has interacted with you, they're now opted into your database, and you can send them broadcast text messages in the future.
Okay, so I have this database of mobile numbers, and let's say for my business I want to give a coupon for some percentage off the services that somebody might buy from me. How do I actually go about implementing that campaign so that the message goes to all those mobile numbers?
Right. Those mobile numbers would be contained on the online text message marketing provider that you work with, and you would simply go in there. It's as easy as filling out a tweet on your Twitter account. You would fill out the 160-character text message and press a button, and off it goes to all of the people that are part of your database.
Okay, so that's what the provider has set up, and as long as you get them all the phone numbers, the mobile numbers, then they take care of making it all work.
Yes, all the technology is available for you at one of the many online text message marketing companies.
Okay, and you kind of have to go through one of them, or is it something that you could do yourself?
If you had an IT staff, I guess you could develop it yourself, but that would be kind of like, if you needed some documents printed, would you create your own printing press, or would you go out and use a printer? The technology is already done. There's some really good companies out there involved in this business. So I don't think for any one customer it would be worthwhile for them to develop the technology themselves.
Okay, so it's relatively complicated.
The initial setup would be, yes.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some tips on the best types of text messages to send?
Well, there's always a fine line because people have opted into your database. So I always tell people always ask me, how many texts should I send? And there's no really right answer to that. It's just that whatever you send has to be valuable to the consumer. So I always tell people, if you don't have anything going on this week that you think is going to be of interest to your customer, don't just send them one for no reason. Hold off until you really have something that's going to be exciting for them. For instance, if you had an opt-in database yourself, you would have wanted to send out a text message this morning reminding people of this podcast that we're doing. Those are the kind of things that you want to let people know about. It's a way for you to promote your business. And the beauty of text message marketing versus email is 97% of all text messages are opened and read. The most recent stats I've seen on email, only 22% of all emails are opened and read. And if you can imagine the difference, look at your text. I guess occasionally we might get a spam message here and there, but it's pretty rare, whereas your email inbox has just become inundated with so many emails that it's virtually impossible to read them all anymore.
Right, and they're a lot longer.
Correct, yeah. You're limited to 160 characters on text in the United States, so in those cases you can get through them pretty quick.
Right, I think that's one of the reasons why people open them. It's because they know it's only going to take a second. Whereas email just takes so much longer to get through the message.
Absolutely.
Okay. Your book talks a lot about social media. You go into a lot of detail about all the different platforms out there and when to use which one. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, social media is so well suited for mobile and digital marketing because social media sites know so much about you. And Facebook is the gorilla in the room when it comes to social media marketing. If you bought their stock a few years ago, you're probably very happy right now. And I don't see that stopping because the results that you get from Facebook advertising are simply fantastic. And the reason that I think Facebook works so darn well is that if you look at, if you pull out your mobile phone right now and open up your Facebook app, probably in the second position in your news feed, right behind that message from your high school friend or something, you're going to see a sponsored ad. And it takes up 100% of the screen on your mobile phone, so you hardly can miss it. You're definitely going to see it. And more important than that is, if you look at those ads, my guess is you would have a pretty good feeling that they're pretty well targeted to your particular interests. And that's, again, because Facebook knows so much about you. They not only know what you signed up with, the information you gave them during the sign-up process, but they also know what you've posted and what businesses you've liked, what celebrities you might be following on Facebook. But it doesn't end there, because I'm sure you've read articles online, and you see the little Facebook box there at the top where you can Facebook like that article. Well, the beauty of that is whether you touch that button or not, Facebook knows that you're there because they've cookied you. And because they know that, they're gathering data on you constantly, and that's where their targeting is so good, because they're following you all around the web. They know where you've been, and that's why marketers can really benefit from using social media, and especially Facebook.
It's kind of scary.
Well, some people say it's scary, but as a marketer and an advertiser and a business owner, I love it.
Right. But when you think about how much they know about you.
You do know a lot about you, but I would just respond in this way. Would you rather have a generic ad that you may or may not be interested in, or would you rather have something that's in your neighborhood, something that you're interested in, and something that you're more likely to respond to? If there's a great deal on shoes and you'd like to buy a lot of shoes, Judy, you probably want to know about that. If there's a buy one, get one free pizza at your favorite pizza place down the street, you're probably happy that they know that information about you because that advertising is relevant to you. Hence the name of my book, Relevance Raises Response.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how do you advertise with Facebook? What should you do to make sure that you're utilizing the power of Facebook for targeting your ads to the right people?
Well, Facebook gives you a wealth of targeting information. So not only can they enable you to geo-target, so you target just the geographic zone that you're interested in, but you can get a wealth of interest targets. So for instance, if you wanted to find out people that are Major League Baseball fans, you could probably get that information on Facebook. If you wanted to find people that are currently remodeling their homes, and you might ask, well, how would Facebook know that I'm remodeling my home? Well, perhaps you went to YouTube and you watched a video about how to hang drywall. Well, then Facebook will assume that that's something you're interested in. You're probably remodeling your home right now because you've watched that video of how to hang drywall, and that's all information, interest targeting that you're able to incorporate. So I would say spend the most time possible on the interest targeting and on the targeting of your customer, and that's going to get your message to the right people.
How expensive is it to do a Facebook ad?
You know, it's gone up considerably because more people are discovering just how effective it can be. You know, at our agency, we look for customers that can invest about $3,500 a month. And that includes not only Facebook, but also other mobile in-app and on mobile websites and desktop website advertisers as well. You know, can you spend less than that? Yeah, I think it's $5 a day that they allow you to invest in the Boost Post feature. So that would be the minimum. But the beauty of this business is you don't have to spend a lot to get results, because it is so effective.
Mm-hmm. So are there other companies that you'd recommend for businesses that don't have a budget of $3,500 a month, maybe would be interested in $300 or $400 or $500 a month?
Yeah, any of the social media sites you can advertise on, and we've had the best results with Facebook. Of course, Instagram is one of the new players in the advertising market. They started towards the end of 2015, and Facebook owns Instagram, so you're getting some of the same targeting that you get with Facebook, you can get with Instagram. And, you know, so you can advertise directly on many of the social media sites. And then if you come to an agency, the agency can get your message out there to whomever it is you're trying to reach. So if you're selling kitchen remodeling, for instance, your target might be women 35 to 54 who are homeowners and live in high-income zip codes. Well, those are people that you could go out and find on the mobile ad networks. And the mobile ad networks, we look for the person, not the place. So we don't care if we find that woman 35 to 54 in the ESPN app or we find her looking at the Cosmopolitan mobile website. We're going to target that person because we know they're a good prospect.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about those ad sites that you were mentioning?
Yeah, we call it the mobile ad network. And with the mobile ad network, you know, we try and define who is your best possible target market, who is most likely to buy now, and then we go out and we look programmatically, and think of programmatically is very different than what you're used to in buying traditional advertising. If you buy a radio campaign, you know you're going to get X amount of spots, and they're going to run at certain time periods. That's not how it works with mobile and digital. With mobile and digital, think of it as a giant stock market where there's supply and demand, and people are bidding, the advertisers are bidding, they're trying to get that ad price at the lowest possible amount at that given moment, and the publishers on the other side, people like ESPN and their app, they're selling ads inside the app, they're trying to get the maximum dollars that they can on a cost per thousand basis. So somewhere those parties meet in the middle, and that's how you generate an ad buy. It seems very complex, and it's all done in milliseconds behind the scenes, but that's where going out and getting some professional help can really help you, because it would be very difficult to run your business and get this sort of level of detail and expertise on your own.
And I guess that's part of what you teach at the University of Denver, is how to do that?
Yes, we try and, I'm not an academic. I'm a business person who happens to teach the class. So in my class, I try and give people things that they can implement right now in their job. And the fact that I have a graduate level course where the average age of the student is 37, they're almost always out in the workforce already, and they can get real actionable things from my class that they can utilize in their jobs right now.
Okay. You mentioned Instagram and, of course, Facebook, owning Instagram. Which platforms would you recommend other than Facebook for which types of business?
Well, it depends what you're trying to accomplish. If it's a business-to-business product, for instance, you're looking to hire a new employee, you're in the business of recruiting and talent acquisition, certainly LinkedIn is a strong player in that regard. Twitter has a lot of followers, and it's something you should definitely consider. It's difficult to get the same results with Twitter that we have gotten with Facebook, but it's certainly something that should be in the mix as well. And then the new player on the scene is Snapchat, and the engagement with Snapchat amongst teens and young adults is unsurpassed by any of the other social mobile networks. So Snapchat is definitely something you want to consider if your target market is 13 to 24-year-olds. And of course, that is going to grow over time, just like Facebook started as something that was in high schools and colleges, and now everybody's mom and dad are on it, and therefore it becomes less popular for teens and young adults. I think you're going to see the same thing happen with Snapchat as the age group continues to get older, and then the youth will probably find something new.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess that those 13 to 24-year-olds, as they grow older, they may continue to stay with Snapchat, and then it becomes the 30-year-olds that are on Snapchat.
Absolutely.
So I think you've already covered this a little bit, but it almost sounds as though traditional advertising is going to disappear at some point because it doesn't have so many of the advantages of mobile marketing with being able to target people's interests and demographics so closely. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to disappear, but television, for instance, is definitely going to go programmatic in the future, and it definitely has to take in its audience into consideration. An example I always use is, if you want to reach men, 30 to 60 years old, probably the best single place you can reach them is NFL football, but 40% of the audience for NFL football is female. So, they can't really, television hasn't really grasped yet how to target people just in the same way that mobile is, because they don't really know who's watching behind the scenes. I must admit I'm a big fan of The Bachelor, and that tends to be a female-oriented program in general. And I always find it somewhat ironic when I'm watching television and they serve me an ad for a feminine hygiene product, because no matter how many times you serve me that ad, I'm never going to buy the product. So that's really a wasted impression on the part of the advertiser, and that's what I think you're going to see television move to, is knowing who's watching and serving the ad based on that.
So do you think there's going to be a way for the cable boxes to have you indicate who you are when you watch a program, so that when the commercial comes on, there'll be different commercials delivered depending on who's watching?
Yes, I do think it's going to get...
Some commercials will go to these families, but other commercials will go to those watchers or whatever?
Absolutely. There already is, on my Comcast television, there's some interactivity on some of the channels already. So I think that's going to continue to expand, and television is going to go more the way of mobile. But at this point, what you're seeing is a lot of the dollars moving to mobile and digital. If you look at the stats and the trends, you're seeing some of that radio revenue moving to mobile and digital, and you're seeing a vast amount of the print dollars that used to be spent moving to mobile and digital.
That kind of makes sense. What are those stats?
I don't know that I have the stats right in front of me right now, but what we're seeing is the increase in time spent with mobile is overwhelmingly going to apps. And that's where the expansion of time spent with media has really occurred. Also, in the last 5 years, what I've seen is 1 hour more of our time is being spent with media. We're spending over 12 hours per day with media, and you have to ask yourself, well, where's this time coming from? Are people sleeping less? Well, I don't think it's that. I think what it is people have become experts at watching TV and tweeting at the same time. So we all have become much more adept at doing multiple media at the same time. And you're interacting with your mobile phone just as you're interacting with the television that's going on at the moment. Yeah,
and some people are watching TV on their mobile phones.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty amazing. It's amazing technology, and it's amazing that people want to watch something on such a little screen.
Yeah, well, remember on mobile they might be watching it on their iPad as well and on their tablet.
Right.
So that's a bigger screen that would be a little more interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned about apps. Can you talk about the strategy for why you would have an app, what you would have people do with it, and maybe some of the mistakes that companies make when they're developing an app strategy?
Yeah, when it comes to apps, it's the most expensive, it's the most complex thing that a company like ours does. And I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is, does my brand really need an app? So when that decision has been made that, yes, you absolutely do need an app, what I have seen is people allocate a budget to the development of the app because it's more expensive to do than, say, web development. And the reason it's more expensive is you have to develop an app for every device that's out there. And therefore, there's nuances that are unique to each device, and that's why the development is so much more than web development, where you can develop one website and it'll kind of be one size fits all for all things. But the biggest mistake that I see people do when it comes to apps is you can have the greatest app in the world, but there are over 2 million apps in the App Store. So how are you going to get found? And the biggest mistake I see people is putting all their eggs into the development and not saving any money for promotion after the app is developed. So you need to set aside a budget for the promotion, or you're going to have a fantastic app that nobody knows about.
Right. Well, going back to what you initially said is making the decision as to whether you need an app. What are the factors that go into making that decision?
You know, the vast majority of apps are downloaded once and then never used again. So you need to have a reason for a person to come back to the app. Only using it one time probably isn't going to justify the cost in developing it. So you need to have something that makes the consumer want to come back to that app. You know, you think of ESPN's app. You know, what a great way, because there's games every day and the sports fan wants to get the scores. So it's a great reason for you to come back. You know, you think about the Weather Channel app. You know, the weather changes every day, so you know, there's a reason for me to come back every day. So that's the key, is to get that stickiness and that engagement and get those consumers to need to come back often to your app to get that information.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, what is the average cost of developing an app, and what would be a reasonable budget for promotion?
I don't know that you can say what is the average cost of an app, because think of it as, you know, what's the average cost of a home? I guess you could figure that out, but there's some homes that cost $100,000 and there's some that, you know, are in the 50 million range. You know, when it comes to app development, I think it's tough to get anything unique done for under $10,000, but there certainly are plenty of apps that are going to be in excess of six figures, in excess of 100,000 to develop. And then depending on your brand, that's really the only way to determine, you know, what you need as a budget to set aside, you know, for the app downloads. But you know, when it comes to an app download strategy, Facebook overwhelmingly is the #1 place for app downloads. So that's a great place to go to encourage your audience to download your app. And then also there's App Store optimization, or what we call ASO. ASO is kind of the SEO of the App Store world. So there's some techniques that you can use to get your app to the front of the line on the App Store itself.
So Facebook has more app downloads than, say, Apple's App Store?
No, it's not. Of course, you're going to the Apple Store or the Google Store, the Google Play Store, to download the app. But what you would get on Facebook is an ad, a targeted ad that would lead you to that page, and that's why you would download it. So
it's the #1 site for the ads to the apps.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those tricks that you mentioned for getting your app sort of to the front of the line?
Yeah, the App Store will rank you based on downloads. So the most popular apps in a particular search category will be the ones that are at the top of the heap. So I always recommend to people, when you first drop your app, you need to get off to a quick start. You can't fall behind quickly. You need to get a lot of downloads initially. So really timing your advertising in sync with the release of the app is a good way to get to the top of the App Store.
It's not that different from books.
Not at all.
From that standpoint, if you don't do any promotion of your book, then it's not going to sell very much. And if you do a little bit at a time, then you might get some sales here and there, but you want to do a lot when your book first comes out, because that will drive the sales and your book will come up quicker in the searches for that topic.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you have a brick and mortar store, how do you compete with the online stores where shoppers come in and they ask you a lot of questions and then they go buy online because it's less expensive? The online stores don't have the overhead of the retail establishment. Yeah,
it's got to be an incredibly frustrating thing for retailers to see their sales personnel engaging with a customer in the store, only to have him whip out his cell phone and then find the best price at eBay or Amazon or some other store online. But I think at the end of the day, you're never going to stop this practice, so you need to embrace it. And what I mean by that is, as a retail store, let's encourage it. Let's have people actually give them free Wi-Fi in the store. You're not going to stop them anyway, so give them free Wi-Fi. And I think at the end of the day, you can always match the price. People will want to buy from you locally. I think people do try to support their local stores. But more importantly, you're going to give them the expertise. You're going to give them the knowledge of the product, and that's worth something. So I think people will buy from you locally. You can't discourage people from going online. They're going to do it anyway. So as long as you can be competitive on price, I think they'll still buy from your retail store.
Well, it's really hard to be competitive on price if the online store doesn't have any of the rent costs or staffing costs of your brick and mortar.
Yeah, but all of us are people. We want it now, right? And the fact is, while you're in the retail store, you can walk out with that product right now. You can't necessarily do that if you order it online. It's going to take you a few days to get it. So I think that will overcome some of the advantages that online does have price-wise.
To some extent. Yeah, but for somebody who absolutely needs something right then and there. But now with 2-day shipping, if you have Amazon Prime or whatever, it's free shipping and it gets to you pretty quickly.
Yes.
So unfortunately, I think a lot of those brick and mortar stores are going to be disappearing.
That is seems to be a trend. Amazon is a monster.
So anything else that you think we should know about when we are contemplating getting involved with mobile marketing, or maybe some mistakes that you've seen people making who are doing mobile marketing that we need to focus on to avoid?
Yeah, I think for the local business person, there's never been a medium better suited for local business than mobile and digital. So I think you can do a good job with just text message marketing and a small budget on social media. It used to be that Facebook gave you a business page, and your Facebook post was kind of like free advertising for your store. But anymore, if you're relying on Facebook organic posts to reach your audience, you're really missing the boat. And the reason I say that is because the studies show that only 1.5% to 6% of all the people that have liked your business page are actually going to be served your organic business page post. And, Facebook isn't dumb. They want you to pay to play. And so they really have de-emphasized the value of their free advertising that they used to give away on their business posts. And quite frankly, Facebook has so much activity anymore that they can't serve everybody every post that's made or, your computer screen would blow up. So they're cutting down on the amount of effectiveness of your Facebook organic posts and kind of forcing you into a paid advertising program. So I would say if you can only do a couple of things in mobile, it would be text message marketing and social media paid advertising.
And that social media paid advertising would be start with Facebook.
I believe Facebook is the best place for your dollars right now.
Okay, and key mistakes to avoid?
When it comes to key mistakes to avoid, if we address the idea of text message marketing now and social media, there's the intention of many small business owners who want to get immediate results. You could see that with paid advertising. But when it comes to social media and text message marketing, I say to everybody, when it comes to social media, don't expect the first 6 months to really drive much store traffic or drive much sales to you. It takes a while to build your followers. And the more followers you have, the more powerful all your posts are going to be on social media. Same thing with text messaging. The more opt-ins you get, the more powerful that database becomes. So give it 6 months at least before you give up on it, and work on it every day, work on it every week, whatever the time that you can spend with it, and you will see results when you get past that half-year mark.
Great. Well, Bob, thank you so much. That's terrific information. We appreciate your sharing your wisdom with us on mobile marketing. If people have questions or want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, they can email me at bob@Purplegator. They can call our office at 610-688-6000, or I'd recommend that they read my book first, Relevance Raises Response, How to Engage and Acquire with Mobile Marketing. You can purchase it at relevanceraisesresponse.com or any of the fine online book retailers that you helped me set up.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I want to let everybody know that our August SkillBites show will be on August 17th from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. Our guest will be Robin Miller, who is the COO of Articulate, Real, and Clear, offering communication coaching. Robin focuses on sales communication as well as keynote creation, interviews, meeting facilitation, and communication Aikido. In this session, Robin will talk about how to find your core message and align your message with your tone and body language to inspire and engage your audience. So give yourself a little communication chiropractic adjustment to be brave enough to truly step into your message. Thanks again, Bob, and we look forward to Robin Miller next month on August 17th.
Thank you for having me.